It was a tiny hand clasped at the very hem of his nurse coat that made Subin stop in his tracks. Yet another tranquil Sunday morning at the cafeteria came, uneventful as always. The male was holding a tab in one hand, heading back in after finishing a round of checkups at the courtyard. Not many patients were inside, save for a few children finishing up their breakfast and some elders in need. Upon feeling the tug, Subin immediately turned, coming face to face with the owner of the hand. It belonged to a small girl, young, rather pale, her frame frail. Subin made a mental note to ask her for her name so he could put in a word or two with her nutritionist later. She had hair that was dark as night, silky like black jade. Her eyes were wide and round as they stared straight at him, almost alarmingly big in proportion to the rest of her tiny features. Her frame was dressed in a plain white dress, oddly ambiguous, but then again, this was a hospital gown. The child had a petero dog plushie in her free hand, possessively clutched to her chest. Her fist was oddly clamped, and only then did Subin realize there was something else poking through the gap of her stout fingers. "Hello there." He flashed her with a warm smile, quickly crouching down to meet the child's eye level. He was rewarded with a shy one in return. "How can I help you?" "Mr. Nurse," meekly mumbled the girl, eyes wide with a hint of curiosity in them. They were clear as day as those obsidian orbs blinked at him. Subin crinkled. I found something." "You did? Would you like to show me?" Subin hummed, eyes gazing at the girl's clamped fist, waiting for it to unturn. And so it did. What lay in the girl's palm, however, made his expression shift. Clutched in the middle of her small hand was a crinkly paper heart, neatly folded, but with edges worn. It wasn't an uncommon sight for him, but for whatever reason, his guts told him that Subin recognized all too well just where this particular one came from. "Oh? Where did you find this?" He tried to keep the smile plastered on his face, unstretching his own palm to hold the child's. The girl fidgeted, shifting her weight between her feet, reluctant to answer, like a child afraid of reprimanding because she was caught doing something she shouldn't be. "It's okay to tell me, I promise," he added, for extra reassurance, which he was certain she needed. This sparked a glint of hope in her eyes. "I found this in the room next to mine. There are so many. It was like a Barbie movie, Mr. Nurse." Subin's heart dropped. "A heartbeat too late?" he inquired, his voice wavering just in the slightest. "What's your room number, little one?" 554, chirped the child, and something unreadable flashed across Subin's usually bright visage. "You went in there?" said Subin, his cheerful tone from earlier completely absent. It was unlocked," fumbled the child, her grip on the plushie tightening. She was looking away now, and the hand situated on top of Subin began to tremble. Subin cooed, shaking his head, and reaching out to stroke her back, something he was trained to do to comfort children. "It's okay. It's all right. Why don't we return this to where it belongs?" She meekly nodded, putting the crumpled paper heart in Subin's much larger palm. Subin carefully held it, like he was afraid it would break under the gentlest of touches, and put it in his coat pocket. "Long time no see." He then stood up, took the child's hand in his, and began walking. "Mr. Nurse, why are there so many hearts in the air?" Fluorescent lights began to flood the room after he flipped the switch. Subin had let the girl come in ahead of him before he slid the door closed. The room was exactly just as they left it 3 years ago, in which Subin never let anyone, himself included, enter it since. Just being here alone made his body feel like it's being torn through a time warp. Inhaling a deep breath, his eyes finally flickered up to take in his surroundings. It wasn't anything different from other hospital rooms. The bed was perfectly made. The sheets were white. So were the sheets, the floor, the ceiling, and just about anything else. Almost the entire room was adorned in white. Nothing unordinary, except for the masses and masses of origami hearts, all in different colors, filling the entire room to the brim everywhere one would look. Colors rippled in bright paper hues through its field of vision, left to right, up to down. It was taped on the wall, much so that there was barely room for the white paint to peek through. Streams and streams of it were hung up across the ceiling in multiple rows, crisscrossing like bedroom lights decoration. It was by the bed, on the nightstand, on the pillow, and carefully spread out on the sheets. Subin could perfectly recall how he was right there, taping the hearts onto the wall, tying the streams, scattering them on the sheets. 3 years ago, like it was just yesterday. The middle one carefully sat down on the chair right by the bed, but Subin lifted her up and put her on the mattress. Her tiny frame was huddled by the sea of origami hearts on the sheet. The sight was oddly endearing, but heart-wrenching to him for reasons the male would rather not address. The nurse sat himself down on the bedside chair, pulled it closer and handed the child a random heart he picked up. Have you heard about the origami hearts tradition in the hospital? Taking the heart, the child excitedly inspected it, nodding in glee. Yes, my mama told me that when someone leaves the hospital to go to heaven, we all fold a paper heart for them. Like this, like this. That's right, chuckled Sumin. The pure, innocent excitement of a child almost single-handedly brightened the morbid ambiance of this room, something that no one was able to accomplish for countless years to come. Subin found it highly ironic. But do you know how it started? The girl shook her head, handing her paper heart to the Petero duck so they can inspect it together. This alone tugged at Subin's heartstrings. Well then, I'll tell you a story. He cleared his throat and the child looked up at him with the brightest eyes in the world, waiting for him to go on with her lips shaved into a perfect O. I wonder if you sent her into my path, as a sign. It started here in this room, from a boy who used to fold a paper heart every day for his lost love, hoping each one he makes will take him closer to the day those eyes would open again.
Sean, look here.
Yeonjin was in the middle of climbing down a tree, the end of a random grass plant tucked between his teeth when he turned to look.
Bumgyu, what are you doing?
Come quick, or the wind's gonna blow it away. Look.
The younger male still exclaimed with glee, sounding way too excited as he crouched in the middle of the field, hands cupped protectively around something. Yeonjin let out a small laugh as he jumped down, walking over. In the middle of a tall grass field, Bumgyu mysteriously looked even smaller.
What is it?
He inquired as he squatted down next to the boy. They were two perfect dandelions, white as snow, round as textbook circles, not a single flake out of place. Bumgyu noticed Yeonjin staring in awe as well, and giggled as he gently plucked the flowers, handing one to the former.
Cheer. Did you know that when you see dandelions, you can make a wish before you blow on them and they'll come true?
Yeonjin's brow arched. Bumgyu didn't look the type to be interested in things like that.
Really? Are you making this up?
Yeonjin mused, looking at the younger with a questioning gaze that was half teasing.
No, an uncle told me once. Quick, close your eyes and make one. Let's do it together.
Bumgyu waved around his free hand, his excitement barely contained. With a smile still plastered on his face, he squeezed his eyes shut, so excessively tight that wrinkles started to form. If Yeonjin found it endearing, he didn't let him know. He always spared a second to stare at Bumgyu, smiling fondly to himself before he too closed his own eyes.
I wish to always spend tomorrow together with you, until the end of forever.
When he opened them again, Bumgyu's were no longer closed. Those dull eyes were now staring at him with anticipation, like he was waiting for him to complete making his wish so they can blow them together. Yeonjin let out a small chuckle, a nod signifying the green light Bumgyu was awaiting. The latter's smile turned impossibly brighter before they both blew their dandelions at the same time.
What wish did you make?
Yeonjin nudged him by the shoulder. The remains of the dandelions scattered around them like miniature snowflakes.
Sean, I can't tell you, or it won't come true.
The younger looked away, a small pout forming on his face.
I'm about to tell Young everything.
Yeonjin pressed, tackling the younger male onto the field. Bumgyu only whined but showed no signs of restraint. The sun was above them. The breeze was warm yet gentle. In the distance, Yeonjin could hear birds chirping. Dewdrops made their clothes wet as they rolled in the field, but neither one of them seemed to care. Giggles filled the quiet of the park. It was as if only the two of them were present in this vast, vast world. They were 10. When they turned 11, Bumgyu took them here again, on a chilly September evening, where the breeze no longer held the comforting warmth of a kiss like it would on a March afternoon. Yeonjin remembered the dewdrops caressing his cheeks as he rolled in the field when they last visited. Now he only pulled his turtleneck higher, the wind ruthlessly ravaging through his hair. Bumgyu was by his side, a hand clasped tightly around his, wearing a white beanie and a bright yellow sweater. Yeonjin noticed that his beanie had cat ears and snickered.
How adorable.
Come quickly.
The younger male ushered, jogging him by the intertwined hand. Yeonjin only yelped as he tried to get up. The breeze blew more mercilessly this time around, and he could taste his hair in his lips as he lightly shuddered. Bumgyu finally stopped once they arrived in Yeonjin's favorite spot of the park, a giant maple tree. They sat, and only then did Bumgyu let go of his hand to dig into the basket he's been carrying. Yeonjin's palms felt oddly empty in the cold, and so he tugged them under his sweater to get rid of the chill.
Sean, do you know that they're going to renovate that part of the park over there into an amusement park?
Bumgyu spoke up, his tiny hand pointing. Yeonjin's gaze followed, and surely enough, he already saw a Ferris wheel, standing tall in the middle of the eerie dusk, its bright lights in the glowing contrast against the dark of the night.
Does Bumgyu want to go?
He spoke up, noticing the light wash of color appearing on the younger's face at the third-person address. He always knew Bumgyu was fond of being referred to like that ever since they were toddlers, but didn't realize it would have the same effect now.
Stop calling me that. I'm not 5 anymore.
he retorted, but the crimson hue was now evident on his visage. A heartbeat after Yeonjun was done with his fit of giggles, he spoke up in a timid voice.
Bomgyu doesn't like top places.
hummed
Yeonjun, stinging an arm over the latter's shoulder.
Hyung knows. We can look at it from afar then.
Bomgi nodded silently. A second later, he produced a small box in his hands, pulled right out of the basket. Yeonjun's favorite grin was on his face once again, as he stared at him in anticipation.
Look what I got you.
Sing-songed the younger male before he hurriedly put the box down, reaching to pull out other things from the basket.
What's that?
Bomgi only smiled critically, not answering. Clutched in his hands now were a candle, a lighter, and a bunch of plastic utensils. He quickly scattered them in his lap before disassembling the paper box. Yeonjun's eyes widened slightly,
Get a birthday cake, silly.
said Bomgyu in a playful tone. The lack of honorific intentional based on Yeonjun's deduction, yet he paid it no mind. The younger man now proudly handed him the cake, practically shoving it into his arms, which a mildly flustered Yeonjun diligently took.
Carrot cake, your favorite. I asked my mom to help me make it. I think I did a pretty good job, don't you think?
Bomgi asked with a triumphant grin as he put a candle in the middle of the cake and pulled out a lighter. In white frosting, Yeonjun could barely make out the handwritten "Happy Birthday Yeonjun Hyung" on top of it. Bomgi usually had neat handwriting, so this could only signify the struggle he had with the decorating process. The mental image of Bomgi putting so much effort just for him put a fond smile on his face.
You made it? Really? Are you lying to me?
Yeonjun remarked, a slight smile on his face. What he didn't tell Bomgyu was that he'd hoped the chuckles emitted from the dry mouths could cover the sound of his own heart beating rapidly against the constraint of his ribcage.
It's your birthday. I put in my all. How dare you question Bomgyu?
He pouted, intentionally using his baby talk advantage. Bomgyu too was aware of just how much the older adored his pet name of sorts.
I, Choi Yeonjun, vow to never question Choi Bong-gyu ever again for as long as I live.
He spoke, voice dramatically deepened. Bomgyu just huffed at the tease, attempting to light up a singular candle amidst the strong evening breeze. In between the banterful exchanges and muffled giggles, the two boys sang a very unsynchronized, off-key take of Happy Birthday. Yeonjun later would realize that the reason he was only able to focus on Bomgyu, even though it was supposed to be his birthday, would signify more than he'd ever let on.
Alright now, time for you to make a wish.
Chimed the younger. The cat ears on his beanie were flopping against the wind, the brightest smile adorning his face. For a moment, Yeonjun was convinced that the orange glow emanating between them was coming from the younger's smile, and not the birthday candle. Humming, Yeonjun closed his eyes and did as he was told.
I hope to always see you smile like this, until the end of forever.
On another fateful March evening, Yeonjun was now on the giving end of dragging Bomgyu by their entwined hands.
Sean, I do not want to go on there. Mom will scold us if she finds out.
Whined the younger, lower lip trembling. He tried to dig the heels of his feet into the grassy earth of the park field, but the action proved to be of no use. Yeonjun had always been stronger than him anyway.
Then we just have to make sure she doesn't, right?
Yeonjun replied, a cheeky grin forming on his face. The younger only responded with a petulant groan, but resisted no further. Once they finally stopped, they were met face to face with the giant Ferris wheel, the one on the other side of the park which they'd make their second home. Bomgyu half expected the lopsided grin on Yeonjun's face to grow even wider as he shoved them into the already open cabin. Yet, the older boy only turned to look at him, giving their interlocked hands a reassuring squeeze.
Is Bong-gyu afraid?
There it was again, his favorite baby talk, and Bomgyu was slightly taken aback by the worried tone in his voice. Gnawing on his lower lip, he attempted to look up the very top of the Ferris wheel and imagine them there. Needless to say, a jolt shocked through his spine. But Yeonjun was right there, and as soon as he sensed Bomgi's fear, his hold on him tightened.
Don't be afraid. Hyung is here.
That's right, his Chung is here, and there is nothing for him to be afraid of. With a made-up mind, Bomgyu let out a toughened puff that pushed up his chest, an act of bravery that he needed more than the boy beside him.
Bomgyu isn't afraid.
The sly smile made its way onto Yeonjun's face again. Bomgyu wanted to tell himself that he hated it, but he wasn't sure how much of that he actually believed.
Good.
And with that, they boarded the Ferris wheel. Yet the next thing Bomgyu knew, he was glued to the older's side. His display of courage moments ago, long abandoned as he lashed himself onto the entirety of Yeonjun's left arm. He did not care that he looked like a koala right now, or if the latter's tease would make his ears burn crimson later. Between choked breaths and unrelenting laughter, Yeonjun was finally able to put together a coherent sentence.
You are so adorable. Didn't you say you aren't afraid? Huh? Choi Bong-gyu?
Shut up, you tricked me. You're so horrible, Hyung.
Bomgyu could only make empty threats and shaky insults. Squeezing his eyes shut so tightly, he began to feel his headache. Underneath him, he could feel the unstable rise of the passenger cabin. He would be throwing up out of nausea right now, had it not been for the comforting warmth of the hand he was holding on to. From above him, he could hear his favorite voice coo.
Bong-gyu, it's okay to open your eyes. I promise.
He spoke, tone surprisingly fond, no more sarcasm present. And then, the incline of the cabin he dreaded so much halted to a stop.
Are we finally done?
He attempted to peek an eye open, body relaxing significantly.
No, we're at the top.
Said Yeonjun, and Bumgi almost shrieked.
Then why would you tell me it's safe to open my eyes, you liar? You're the worst person on earth, Choi Yeonjun.
His eyes were clamped shut once again, tiny fists repeatedly landing thuds on the latter's chest. This, however, had no effect of seizing the older's amused laugh.
You can see the sunset right now, Bongyu. It's beautiful. Look, we can even see the maple tree from here too.
He whispered, his free hand reaching up to cradle the younger's head. There was silence when Bumgi didn't respond. He thought the boy had given up persuading him, when a heartbeat later, a voice just sounded right next to his earlobe.
It's alright to look. Nothing will happen when I'm by your side, silly.
Bumgi was hesitant, but Yeonjun knew him well enough to know that it was beginning to sway him, so he tried again.
I promised you.
It was another dull moment of silence before he could hear Bumgi's muffled voice from where he was buried into his shoulder.
You better.
And then, slowly, he pulled away. Yeonjun proudly smiled, slowly turning his body to where the sunset was.
I got you.
He whispered.
Now open your eyes.
With a shaky exhale, Bumgi did as he was told. At first, the younger only saw a bright orange glow. It bombarded his vision and invaded his sight in a way that almost startled him. But after blinking a few times, his pupils adjusted to the light. What he was met with almost took his breath away. It was golden hour then, the gentle cast of the sunset painting everything it could reach a stunning orange. The sky was a perfect harmony of red, pink, and yellow, the colors vibrant and almost whimsical, like a canvas meticulously finessed by a world-class artist. Bumgi let out an audible gasp. He could hear a faint chuckle from the male next to him, but he couldn't care less. From a nearby clock tower, Bumgi could barely read the time. With his squints, he attempted. It was 5:53 p.m. He had never seen the sun so up close. It burned an angry crimson, looking like it would be within his palms right now if only he reached out.
Has the sun always been so red?
He blurted out, and as soon as those words left him, he felt his face heat up in embarrassment.
It's so cool, isn't it?
Chuckled the older before he pointed.
There, look. Our maple tree.
Then, Yeonjun watched with amusement as the younger's eyes visibly lit up.
Wow, it looks so small from here. Wait, I can see the roof of your house, Hyung. Look.
But Yeonjun wasn't looking. He was too busy staring at the boy beside him. And Bumgi wished he hadn't turned to catch his gaze when he was met with silence. Because the affection in those same eyes, staring at him like he hung the stars, would then introduce him to a lifetime of unbecoming he didn't know would be lying ahead of him. And neither of them were old enough to recognize just what that moment entailed, nor what it will manifest into. The fond smile on both their faces, the knots in their stomachs, the feeling of being so high up that somehow reaching for the sky sounded perfectly sensible. From then on, Bumgi was no longer afraid of heights.
Happy birthday, Bongyu.